Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to make a start. So I will start with the remarks that I have to say every meeting, and it goes like this. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Climate Emergency Advisory Committee. My name is Councillor Katie Dye, and I will be chairing today's meeting. Could I remind everyone that today's meeting is being live streamed on the City Council YouTube channel so that the public can observe the meeting without needing to be present. So we're going to do a round of introductions, and we're going to go and introduce members of the committee first. Then we're going to introduce council officers, and then we'll go to you, school children. Thank you so much for coming today, and you can introduce yourselves too. So make the microphones work. If you press when it's your turn, the light will come on and you'll be heard. If it's not close enough to you, you can pull it to you a little bit closer, okay? So we'll start with members of the committee.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Councillor Andy Rowntree. I represent Kirkstall on the Council.
Good afternoon. I'm Councillor John Tudor, and I represent the Killingbeck and Seacroft ward.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Councillor Adele Ray, and I represent Barramley and Stanningley ward.
Good afternoon, Councillor Bromley, Horsforth and Rawdon ward.
Good afternoon, Councillor Peter Carlill, Carvely and Farsley ward.
Good afternoon, Councillor Penny Stables, Wetherby ward.
Good afternoon, Councillor Norma Harrington, Wetherby ward.
Good afternoon, Councillor Barry Anderson, Aslan Wharfdale ward.
Thank you. And council officers, we'll start this side.
Good afternoon, Rachel Waterhouse, Policy Officer in Climate, Energy and Green Spaces.
Gillian Wallace, Head of Employment and Skills, part of the City Development Directorate.
Good afternoon, Toby Russell, Clerk to the Committee.
Good afternoon, Polly Kirk, Chief Officer, Climate, Energy and Green Spaces.
Super, thank you. So now let's have our guests introduce themselves. So if you want to start, and then we'll go round to all our guests on the side. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ali Hopkinson, Head Teacher at Burley St Matthias Primary School. This is Caleb and Yashri and Mariam, who've come along.
Thank you. Do you want to go around the table? We'll go to visitors at the side.
Alan from Fruitworks and Foodwise.
Thank you. Nikki Davis, Principal at Leeds College of Building.
Afternoon, everybody. I'm Joanne Patrickson. I'm Director of Skills and Growth at Luminate Education Group and West Yorkshire Consortium Colleges.
Thank you, and thank you for giving up your time to come and be with us today. Really appreciate it. Okay, so Toby's going to take us through the first few items on the agenda, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yep, just a couple of formal items to run through. So item number 1, we have no appeals against the refusal of inspection of documents. Item number 2, we have no exempt information on today's agenda. Item number 3, we have no formal late items. Item number 4, can I ask members to declare any interest they may have? Yep, Councillor Rowntree.
Thank you. Not a pecuniary interest, but I am a governor at Burley St Matthias School, who we'll be hearing from in a moment. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Councillor Rowntree, noted. And item number 5, apologies for absence. So apologies for absence have been received from Councillor Rick Downs, and we've also been notified that Councillor Rafiq will be arriving a little bit late. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So that takes us to item 6 on the agenda. So that is for us to approve the minutes from the last meeting and note any matters arising. So I will go through them page by page, and if you would like to just stop me if you have anything you'd like to correct or any matters arising on that page. So first page in your pack is page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, page 14, page 15, and page 16. Thank you. So are we all happy to agree those as a true record of the last meeting? Thank you very much. Right, that will move us on to item 7, which is our open forum slot. And we have 2 groups talking to us today, and the first one is going to be Burley St Matthias School. So you have 5 minutes to talk to the committee. However you want to split that up is up to you. If I just want to hand over to you and you can tell us what you'd like to say. Thank you very much.
Hello, thank you for having us today. So, as I said before, I'm the head teacher here. I'm Ali Hopkinson. I should have 4 members of my Eco Council with me today, but unfortunately one is unable to join us, so I'm going to take his lines today, so please be gentle with me. So I'm going to start us off. So we are 4 members of the Eco Council from Burley St Matthias Primary School. Thank you for inviting us to come and speak to you today.
We formed in September 2025, and each member of the Eco Council was voted to go to represent their class on the council. We signed up to the Let's Go Zero campaign, and then we worked with the school business manager and the caretaker to calculate the amount of carbon our school uses.
Our school is split site and it's housed in 2 Victorian buildings, which does bring some challenges. We also have road running through the middle of our site, which is quite unique. We used our carbon footprint to then write a climate action plan.
We shared our plans on our school website and our school Facebook page to keep our families up to date with our work. We also contribute to the Leeds Climate Change Padlet to showcase our work to other schools. Our climate action plan has 4 sections. 1. Decarbonisation and energy efficiency, calculating and taking actions to reduce carbon emissions and becoming more energy efficient. 2. Climate adaptation and resilience, taking action to reduce the risk of flooding and overheating and to future-proof scarce resources for potential shortages. 3. Biodiversity and green infrastructure, creating habitats and adopting practices that will enhance species diversity on the school, estate and beyond. 4. Climate education, green skills and green careers, ensuring the education our school provides gives knowledge-rich and comprehensive teaching about climate change and that the teaching staff feel supported to offer this.
Some of the actions we have completed are optimizing our boiler setting and ensure our heating and hot water system have efficient timings and temperature set. We have been able to reduce our energy bills significantly since taking this action and should see a lower carbon footprint as a result.
We have worked with our caretaker to look at draft-proofing doors and windows and ensuring they open and close correctly. After a site survey, we found that lots of draft strips in doors have perished or are missing, and many of our Victorian windows do not close properly. We now have an action plan in place, which we are working our way through.
We have also started a half-termly energy award, which is awarded to the class who have gained the most points for being energy efficient. We regularly check the classrooms and award points for lights being switched off, for laptops being closed, screens switched off, and the AC units being switched off too.
As our carbon footprint from food was quite high, we held a meeting with Angela, Bradley and Karen from the food tech team at Leeds Catering in December. We talked about the impact that serving lots of meat has on the climate. We also talked about how important it is to support British farmers. We asked if our food menus could be adapted to offer the meat-free options at the top of the menu. Angela agreed and our menu has now been changed. We also spoke to Angela about wanting to have some impact beyond our school and asked if this change could possibly be made in all the menus across Leeds. We have agreed to monitor the impact of this change, and if it has a good impact, Angela also agreed to consider rolling this out across Leeds schools. We have purchased food waste bins for each classroom in the school and also for our playground. The council delivered an assembly to explain the importance of this to the whole school.
We grow food on site, which we then cook and eat to engage us with how food reaches our plates. This year we've planted, harvested and cooked pumpkins, butternut squash, potatoes, onions, tomatoes, raspberries, apples, courgettes, cucumbers and rhubarb. We've made soup, salads, crumbles and shared it with classmates across school.
To provide pupils with education and on the importance of reducing, reusing and recycling correctly, Year 5 visited Recycling and Energy Reclamation facility in November and then feedback to the school in an assembly. This week, Year 2 are to visit the Emperor Recycling Centre and will also feed back to the school in an assembly. This year, we are also planning our first ever Green Week. There will be workshops for every classes and linked for school activities, themed assemblies, habitat mapping across the site and sustainable travel day, making posters and videos, designing a classroom switch of list, ultimate workshop on planning with wildlife and further activities in classes. Even the staff has visited a planet to the RERF in July.
We have set up a uniform exchange to encourage families to reuse, reduce waste and save money. It is open all year round and families can come in and browse, make a request for a block of uniform in a specific size, and is also open and staffed at Parents' Conciliation evening with leaflets in place to encourage use and also donations. The Eco Council have created flyers and these were distributed at Parents' Conciliation evening. We have also started using recycled paper at school for our printing and photocopying from a carbon neutral supplier. We have even experimenting with other sanitary items such as whiteboard pencils.
We already host bikeability sessions for Key Stage 2 children, but this year we expanded this offer to balance bike sessions for Key Stage 1, increasing movement play and also encouraging sustainable travel. This happened in November and we now have more and more children coming to school on bikes and scooters.
Our other action we are planning to complete this year are continue to replace lighting with LED lighting through school. Implement our power down strategy for electrical device and appliances. Regularly organize cleaning gutters and unblocking any drains on site to ensure guttering can cope with higher levels of rainfall. Seasons with higher leaf fall or heavy rain are particularly important. Raise awareness around the consumption and efficiency by visiting the Headingley water treatment works, increasing planting around school to support pollinators.
Thank you so much for listening to our presentation today. We would like the Climate Emergency Advisory Committee to consider how much more difficult it is to deliver a climate action plan in a school with older buildings and how much more expense there is involved with this compared to schools with newer buildings, double glazing and insulation. We would also very much like some help with increasing the planting around school to support pollinators and wondered if there was a way schools in Leeds can access free seeds and plants. We already work closely with the Burley allotments, but would like to know if there are any other opportunities available.
Thank you so much for taking the time to come and tell us all about what you're doing at your school. It is truly amazing. And can you imagine if every school in Leeds did as much as your school is doing? We would be really moving forwards in terms of our climate action. So thank you so much for coming to talk to us today. I would absolutely love to come and see your school and see some of the work that you're doing, and if other members of the committee would like to come along, perhaps we could arrange a date to come and do that. It'd be really worth a visit, I think. In terms of the seeds, we'll look into that. I know that Leeds supplies free trees for planting, but I don't actually know about seeds, but we will look into it and we will get back to you with that. Okay? Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. My microphone seems to be a bit in and out today. Thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate it. You are welcome to stay and watch on the side chairs if you like, or you may need to get back to school. But thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Okay, we'll just wait for Fruitworks to get set up, and then we'll start.
Do I stay here?
You're welcome to stay there if you like. Yep.
The webcast link for presenting.
I've just got the Teams link there.
Okay, I'll see if they need to let
While presentation's just getting set up, for anything you didn't know,
Would you like a drink?
I'm all right.
Yeah, there's
That's the link.
they said they're not getting a request.
Okay, Rachel, I did send it to Rachel earlier, so if you're all right digging it up, Rachel. So I'll do my best to keep to time. So my name's Alan Thornton. I'm from Fruitworks. We're a worker co-op based here in Leeds. Also do a lot of work in Bradford. We've been doing some work for Foodwise, which is the food partnership. So that brings together the public, private and voluntary sector to try and improve the food economy and culture of Leeds. So we've been asked to do a survey of community gardens in Leeds. And we know quite a lot about that because Leeds has more community orchards than any other city outside of London. So we've worked with a lot of them. And so this survey was community gardens, so orchards and community gardens. So we got responses. I'll plough ahead while they're waiting for the presentation to come up here.
You're very welcome to wait for a minute if you want, and then we can see the slides at the same time.
How are you doing there, Rachel?
I'm just trying to use a link, so it's just stopped sending me into a different room to the one that was sent through.
Let's just wait for a minute or so and,
Okay.
and see if we can make it work. Apologies, everybody, and thank you for your patience. It looks like we've got it working now. So if you want to carry on, that'd be super. Thank you.
Next slide, please. So yeah, we had a widely promoted survey. We had responses from 77 different community gardens and orchards from many parts of Leeds, but not quite all. There were a few wards that we didn't hear from any community gardens in Adel and Wharfdale, Pudsey, Hunslet and Riverside, which I know is the old name of the ward, sorry, South of Morley and Ardsley and Robin Hood wards. So that's not to say there aren't any community gardens there, but we just didn't hear from them. Move on. You have moved on. All right. So a lot have children involved, but half don't. Community gardens are widely used by older people, as you'd expect. And a lot of people involved have a known disability or health issue. So it's particularly those people who have been involved. A lot of people involved have no education, employment or training. And a lot involve refugees and asylum seekers. Next slide. And a whole variety of things that are grown. I'll skip over this one because of time. Next slide, please. So we wanted to check on the health of community gardens, and 2/3 are amazing at growing naturally, so without chemicals. And it's also about how the community gardens are doing as people resources. So whilst most are welcoming and accessible, 3/4 recognise there's more that they can do to broaden their appeal. And the incredible edible groups were doing just as well as all the other ones. Next slide. So we ask about the challenges. And so volunteers are a key issue. Antisocial behaviour, as you can imagine, was an issue for more than half. And you'll see the top bit of the bar graph there. We asked about whether permission from the council was an issue. Because anecdotally we heard that it was. So a lot of people responded saying it wasn't an issue. And then subsequently heard that a lot of volunteers feel largely uninhibited, partly because they'll just get on and do it anyway. So in summary, we've got a thriving movement in our city, although not in all parts. It really fits in with a 20-minute city neighbourhood approach. I don't know whether that's still a council approach. So almost everybody in the city is within walking distance of a community garden or orchard. So that's a great infrastructure there, and we can do a lot more with that. But in terms of responding to the climate and nature biodiversity crises, we've got that infrastructure there. There's some amazing gardeners there, many of whom are nature friendly. That kind of goes without saying. We need new, more and different volunteers, but they're underused by children. And so it's great to hear from the children from Burley this morning about their interest, and they will be next to a community garden they can use. And almost all the groups are part of a citywide network. So either the Parks Forum or one are part of the Incredible Edible network. But there's some recommendations from that's not on the slide, so I will talk through them verbally. Are they there? No. Okay. So there's a growing movement around having a right to grow campaign, which where there's a presumption for councils to support and give permission to community groups to grow food on public land. So Hull is a real pioneer of that. So there's growing interest in that. And so that's around starting with the positive assumption that people want to do good things and grow more food, and we need a lot more of that in our city. More training and guidance to support fun activities for children. The council and the Aerium do lots already to support community gardens, but could be doing more. And a small practical thing is more wood chip from would be good from the council. Always more that we can do around sharing skills and knowledge. And so that's something that we'll be looking to do more through some local networks rather than citywide. It's really difficult to get people from Morley, Wetherby, Garforth, Otley, all in the same place. So doing things at a more localised level is more appropriate. There is now a really good map of all of these things that's hosted on the Leeds Green Activity Providers map, and that's done in such a way that it doesn't go out of date. So we're encouraging people for that to be the map of community gardens and green activities. And Feed Leeds, the network of community gardens needs to change what it's doing and to do less but better. That was all.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, and apologies for the technical difficulties we experienced. That's a really, really interesting piece of work, and I remember us talking in one of our workshops last year about the need for this kind of work to be done. So I'm hugely impressed that it's there, and very interested in the recommendations, and that might feed nicely into some of the work that we're planning on doing in our workshops next year. So thank you for sharing with that. Are you okay for Rachel to share the slides amongst committee members so we can all see the recommendations?
Sure.
Brilliant. Is that okay, Rachel? Will you do that? Thank you so much. And we will definitely revisit this work over the next year. Really appreciate you coming in. Thank you. Okay, likewise, you are welcome to stay or you are welcome to leave. That's up to you. Thank you very much for your time. And that now takes us to item 8. So this is our themed approach, and theme for today is looking at green economy and skills. So Gillian's going to lead this. Do you have presentations from everybody? It's all on your slide. So will you each be speaking to the presentation? So maybe we could split it so that we can hear from you, Gillian, first, and then just pause in case anybody's got any direct questions, and then move on. Councillor Rowntree.
Thanks, Chair. Sorry to interrupt. It's just occurred to me, actually, that the head teacher from Burley St Matthias did have a presentation with her and didn't manage to get it on the screen. I wonder if we could share that as around committee members.
That would be lovely. Yes, really, really, really good. Yeah. So if you would ask her to send it to Rachel, then Rachel can share it around. Thank you. Okay. So, yep, Gillian, when you're ready. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Just taking a little bit of a while to get the slides up. So today I'm going to share some information about how the Employment and Skills team has contributed towards the development of skills and jobs in industries associated with sectors expected to be key in net zero ambitions. I'll summarise the work streams delivered by the Employment and Skills team, but in addition, I've been joined by our two main FE colleges in Leeds, who are going to share an update on some of the work that they're doing to develop curriculum ambitions and some of the challenges that we're actually facing in this arena. I'll do a very quick presentation and then I'm happy to take questions from the floor before I hand over to our partners. It's been some time since I've been, so before I kind of get into the detail of the presentation, I thought it would be useful just to remind everybody about the role of the Employment and Skills Service, because it does sometimes get confused with other services within the local authority. So on the screen is our vision. If I move on to that one. And the reason why I share our vision is to kind of emphasise what we are trying to do. But I think it's important to recognise that the employment skills is quite a complex arena. And actually, we can't deliver it on our own. We rely very much upon the work that we do with partners. Employment and skills is something which happens at a national, a regional and at a local level. And the LA does not operate in isolation, and neither should it. So the vision isn't actually within our gift to deliver it on our own. We don't have the statutory duties, we don't have the responsibilities, nor the experience, nor the resources to do so, which is why our work with partners is so key. And the reason why I emphasise that is because I think it's important to recognise how we do our work as an employment skills service and the way that we've been set up. And we deliver our vision through commissioning, through coordinating on behalf of Leeds. We do deliver. There is some areas where we do deliver, but that is where we are best placed to do so as a local authority. But we also have a large strategic role in influencing partners, influencing regional government, and also in trying to influence national government in our agenda. So how we deliver is just as important to the story. And what I want to do is set out some examples of where we do deliver, but also where we work in partnership and where commissioning has been quite key. Before I do get into the detail, I also wanted to emphasise that as a service, we are very much an outward-facing service. We work with people and employers that are based in Leeds, but we are externally funded. And therefore, our primary focus has to be to deliver the outputs and the outcomes that are associated with that funding. And that means when the funding isn't a direct line to the priorities that we have in Leeds, we have to leverage as much as we can to deliver those priorities. And that's increasingly what we're seeking to do in this agenda. We don't actually receive any external funding to support jobs associated with net zero, and we haven't done for the last couple of years. And that is a factor in what we are able and not able to do. Okay, so now on to the main area of the presentation. I've set that context. Employment and Skills is primarily an adult-facing service. We work with people that are aged over 19. The majority of people that we work with are out of work due to quite complex reasons. They may be unemployed or they may be economically inactive. That's not all of the work that we do. We do work very closely with our children's services because we recognise that children will become adults, and therefore we have a responsibility to ensure that we do things in the preventative space. So our adult programmes focus on engaging people that have significant barriers to employment. And I just want to highlight some of the areas that we do in that activity that helps ensure that we're moving people towards employment. Our outstanding adult learning provision uses a team of internal tutors, but also works with local voluntary and community sector organisations such as TVC or Groundworks, to deliver wellbeing courses that are rooted in nature. These courses are not about delivering qualifications, and they're not going to ensure that people have got the high skills that they need to access employment straight away. It's about engaging people with where they're at and starting them on a pathway towards employment. And sometimes that's about looking at how we engage people and also how do we ensure that they are well enough to consider employment. Our courses and the courses that we commission via this route encourage participants to spend time outdoors and take part in conservation tasks, and through doing that, develop practical skills. Two examples of this is that we've worked with Caddick Construction and the Cross Green Growing Together project, which enabled volunteers to develop and improve the outdoor green space in their area and support environmental stewardship, practical green skills, and community sustainability engagement. And we also work very closely with Groundworks Yorkshire, who continue to deliver a green skills workshop at St Vincent's, which offers adult skills, hands-on sustainability and environmental awareness. These courses present an opportunity to engage people in conversations about the environment that they would not normally have. And it also allows us to highlight the importance of net zero and why it is important that they engage in that and how it can help improve their environment and their circumstances. As well as this, it provides early steps transferable skills. And there is a strong focus on family learning to embed behaviour changes early, and we can link that through to cost of living support and wellbeing. While the provision is not designed to lead directly to highly skilled jobs that are on offer in the sector and instead focuses on early engagement and pathways, through this approach, we have seen some interesting developments which were not necessarily by design, but are worth highlighting about how pathways can develop. One of the activities we deliver through adult learning is willow weaving, and it was originally introduced for its positive impact on mental health. However, since then, it's devolved into a course that addresses a specific skills shortage. There is a growing demand for green funerals, and actually that's led to an increased interest in willow coffins. But actually there is not many, that's a highly skilled job, and there is not many people that can actually make those coffins. So through links with our adult learning, we've now realised that we need to train people, and actually through the wellbeing courses, we can train people to become coffin makers. And not something you would see on a list of growth sectors, not something that you would see in all the skills strategies that we do, but it's good, meaningful work, and it has skilled employment opportunities that has the opportunity to change people's life through good pay. I'll just move on to our Employment Hub. And for those of you that don't know, the Employment Hub is funded through Employment West Yorkshire and is focused on supporting people into work. And where we can, we will work with employers to understand the skills that they need and ensure that the people that we're working with are ready for the jobs that they have. And we do this through providing high quality information, advice and guidance on a one-to-one basis. This has been quite problematic for the net zero sector, as there's sometimes a mismatch between the jobs that are available and the skills that are needed and the starting point of the people that we are working with, some of whom have some quite complex issues. They may have a low skills starting base, they may have been out of work some time and are not always ready for the jobs that are on offer. However, as net zero skills become business as usual and a lot of employers are developing what they need, in some sectors, we are able to maximise on this more. And an example of this was the Leeds Employment Hub partnering with Morgan Sindel and the Talented Training Company to offer a pilot called Get Into Construction programme. Working with employment customers at the Middle Cross Extra Care Scheme in Armley, we've been able to give some guided site visits in which we can highlight the benefits of jobs in construction, but also highlight the sustainability of the development. Following the site visit, we're then able to offer some training, which has been funded by the Combined Authority, and people can gain some experience and then take qualifications. Upon gaining the qualifications, people would then sit the CSCS examinations and offered the opportunity to participate in work experience on site. And when they're doing that, they're then working alongside qualified tradespeople and actually getting the practical skills that they need. This is quite a long journey. It's only something that we've started very recently. But to date, we've got 2 participants that have been offered the opportunity to register with the Labour Desk, which is the agency that's used by Morgan Sindel in order to get its site workers. And this is the model that we'll be looking to grow over the next couple of years. We've had 7 people overall that have accessed the site visits, and 5 people are currently going through the CSCS training, which is vital. Without that, they cannot get on site to access the work experience. And I also briefly want to highlight our community outreach team, who are part of all of the programmes that we deliver. We're very much a team that get out in the community. We don't sit within council buildings. We work from whichever locations that we can. In talking to people, they're doing a lot of brokerage to programmes such as the Green Doctor Scheme to help people access funding that they may need to become more energy efficient in their homes. And we're also linking with sustainable transport projects such as cycling groups. So when people are ready to access work or training and we're looking at doing some travel planning, we're aware of the other alternatives that are available to them. I did mention that we work very closely with our colleagues in Learning and Schools on our careers service, and Employment and Skills runs a careers officers in schools, which is for young people and their families in Leeds, called Informed Choices. Our Start in Leeds website has a web page dedicated to careers, which will contribute towards net zero goals, and we have committed to expanding this resource over the next 6 months. This has been delayed, however, due to resourcing issues, because we want to get this right and we need to ensure that the information is up to date. Our large scale of careers events, which we host at the Arena, which include the Leeds Apprenticeship Fair and the newly announced Careers in Leeds event, will highlight exhibitors who are offering opportunities linked to net zero. And they will have what we call workshops or industry talks that are available for young people and families to book onto, where they can find out more about jobs in this sector. Our offer to schools and the FE includes an apprenticeship advocacy service where we use young people who are actually taking part in apprenticeships to speak to young people that may be interested in apprenticeships through something called the Apprenticeship Ambassador Programme. Over the last year, we've looked to strengthen the number of ambassadors that we have that are in sustainability sector or on courseways that could be useful. We have found this incredibly difficult. We do have one young person that is currently doing a level 6 apprenticeship in sustainable construction, and we are looking to recruit more. But it's quite a difficult thing, actually. We need them to be doing the right apprenticeship, and we also need them to be willing to work with us and come out and speak to young people as well as their employer to allow them to do that. But that is something that we will continue to do. I do want to point out that we do not receive any funding in the careers space to deliver in this area. However, we do work very closely with the Combined Authority, who over the last couple of years have commissioned a head partnership to deliver 2 careers projects. The Growing Green Talent, which is for young people aged 10 to 18 who might not see their place in the green economy, and the Green Innovators Primary Programme. Unfortunately, the funding for both of these programmes has come to an end. And the Growing Green Talent is now of a place where it no longer needs public sector funding and is now funded by employers that are interested in the agenda directly with a head partnership. The Green Innovators Primary Programme comes to an end at the end of this year. It is a West Yorkshire programme. We are waiting for the final findings and the evaluation of that, which I will share with this committee if you're interested as soon as I have them. But we know that they have been working with 6 primary schools, and we're really interested to see what's the plan next. How can we grow to that to go on to the next stage? And finally, I just want to give some examples on how we work in our commissioning role, and that also includes social value opportunities that we have. We use our role as a commissioner to support priority sectors. So when we receive funding into the city, we try and empower partners to work with us where they're best placed to do so. Our adult learning grant, which I mentioned earlier, is used to commission community partners who are best placed to deliver. And we have supported organisations such as TBC and Groundworks to ensure that they can continue to do what they do. Over the last year, we've supported 17 voluntary and community sector organisations to support people where health is a major barrier towards employment. And what we have done with that is we've strengthened TVC so they can do more of their work. But we've also worked with an organisation called Trust Leeds that is looking at exploring self-employment opportunities. And we know that one of the 12 people that they've worked with has set up a sustainable business. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to share details of what that business is, but they have said as soon as they're happy to talk more widely about it, I can share that with you, but it's still in development and they're not wanting us to go out publicly with the details of that business at the minute. We've also commissioned several construction projects working in partnership with the College of Building, where the focus has been on sustainable construction. We used UK Shared Prosperity funding to support learners at Forge and Future site in Kirkstall, where they can develop skills and qualifications on real site learning, and they've studied the principles of renewable energy, retrofit and green methods of construction. Over the last 8 months, we've worked with 40 individuals on this programme and we've supported 15 into work, and we expect that will go up over the next 6 months as they complete their training. In addition, we've worked with Equens and the Pure Products Social Value Commitment to deliver the Leeds Real Green Skills project. Over a 6-week course, a cohort of 8 learners will gain techniques and standards required to install external wall installation, and that will include health and safety, building suitability to practical installation and aftercare. At the end of this course, each trainee will have a guaranteed job interview for an entry-level trade operative role working on Leeds City Council 3-year project. There is still lots more that we can do in this space, and one of the questions we actually have to constantly ask ourselves is whether we are best placed to do it or whether it is our partners. Increasingly working with partners are at a level of maturity where this is becoming business as usual, and our role is more about how we can support them and how we can empower them to do more. There is more we could do. Without a doubt, funding is a barrier. And as our funding window gets smaller, particularly in adult skills, leveraging off that additional funding to address our priorities does become more difficult. But it is something we are committed to, and it is something that we would really value your guidance on as to where you would like us to see more or any gaps that you think we need to fill. Before I hand over to partners, I'm happy to pause there and take any questions or comments.
Thank you, Gillian. Really appreciate all that work that you've explained is going on. Does anybody have any questions or comments at this point for Gillian before we move on to hear from our providers? Right, I'm going to start with Councillor Stables, and then I think I've got Councillor.
It was just a question you mentioned about sustainable construction courses with the College of Building. I just wondered, do all students who go through the college do training on sustainable construction?
I'll answer that one. I think I'll cover it in the presentation if that's okay.
Okay, thank you. So, Councillor Anderson.
I've got a number of points. One is, can you define what you call a green job as opposed to greenwashing, which sounds good, but you're not actually doing anything different than you would do normally? It's something that, and then where do you feel the government should be putting the funding? Direct to WICA or direct to councils? Do you think you could spend it better than WICA? You know, would that be a better solution to enable Leeds to move forward? And I mean, that's not to say that what you're not doing is great, because I think your career days, I get a lot of positive feedback from the career days that you organise. So there's positive stuff coming from that. But also, you're talking to us today about green work. What percentage of your work is what you which would be described as non-green? In other words, the traditional industries, the traditional jobs that are getting on with it, not particularly trying to sell their greenness, but just generally moving forward their businesses in a current environment that makes it more profitable for them. You know, and then the final thing is, what are the main sectors that you're working in? Because some sectors are seen to have a, more sexy. Get into AI, get into cultural things are more sexy than some of the more hard-working. Go out being a plumber, a joiner, which might be financially good, but it's damn hard work. And when you speak to some construction colleges, they find it difficult to attract people into construction because it's not seen, well, the money might be good. It's not necessarily seen as easy. You've got to be willing to work damn hard if you go into the construction sector. So these are the issues that I've got.
Thank you. Thank you for your questions. And if any of them are more appropriately answered later on from College of Building or Luminate, then we'll come to them then.
Okay, I'll try and take some of them in turn, and some slightly outside kind of the scope of what we've prepared for today. Definition of green job. I don't think there is a definition of green job. For us, it's any job which contributes towards our net zero ambitions. However, I think we need to recognise that that's not a sector on its own. If we are going to achieve net zero ambitions, actually every job should have a green element to it. we talk about green jobs because that's the recognised term, but actually it's can it contribute towards net zero ambitions, and that's the definition that we would work towards. The same when we talk about green skills and green careers, and sometimes that's a hook to get people involved, particularly with younger people that have shown an interest and are passionate about the agenda. But there isn't an agreed definition, and it is a term that we need to be careful how we use it. We use it as a hook, but actually what we should be aspiring to is every job contributing towards the ambitions. So I'm not going to answer the question about funding to the Combined Authority or ourselves. What I will say is we work very closely with the Combined Authority, and actually what we need to do is maximise any funding that does come via the Combined Authority to ensure that it works for Leeds and with Leeds. Some things take place at a regional level. That doesn't mean that we can't represent Leeds and we can't have that team Leeds approach in ensuring that it comes directly to Leeds and we benefit from that. In regards to percentage of traditional jobs, we don't really break it down, or I certainly don't have that data available to me. I could probably go away and have a look at that. Within our world, we are working with the skills and the competencies that people have got. And that also includes their desires and their ambitions. And actually part of our role in delivering quality careers advice is understanding what work people would like to do and advising them on whether that is realistic, whether it is achievable, looking at the labour market and what's out there. And we know that a lot of traditional jobs are changing. And, you mentioned yourself things like AI, digital skills, sustainability skills are becoming business as usual. And we need to ensure that people have got the transferable skills that they need should they need to move from traditional jobs to other careers that are out there. We will work with any employer if they're offering a quality employment opportunity, and we will work with them to ensure that they are being realistic in what they are looking for and what is in offer as well. So I can go away and get some data on percentages of that and what sectors that we work with. I don't have that available to me to answer accurately now. So, and we will pick up on the demand for construction courses as part of Nikki's presentation.
Super, thank you. Okay, so next question was from Councillor Rowntree.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the presentation. I'm glad to hear you mention Forging Futures and TCV, both in my part of the world. We have the TCV Hollybush, I'm sure you're familiar with. You've spoken quite a bit about partnerships. I'm just wondering, are you finding any reluctance by employers to support training in this area in straitened times? Is there enough confidence out there to invest in this sector? And so following on for that, how confident are you that sort of the take up of these opportunities is growing in the way that it needs to meet the challenges ahead? Thank you.
I think we'll cover some of the questions about employer engagement as part of the next two presentations. From our perspective, one of the challenges that we have when we are supporting people with barriers into employment is the availability of jobs that match the skill set of the people that we have. There is an area about the market, and we need to ensure that we are preparing people for jobs that we exist now or will exist very, very quickly, and there's an element of how quick those jobs come forward, and that fine line. What we shouldn't do is be preparing people for jobs that are not there or we don't think are going to be there. And it's a constant review, monitoring, and there's lots of factors that could affect that as well. But my colleagues will be able to give you a little bit more information about the employers that they work at and how they've developed skills courses that respond to that.
Or to hearing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bromley.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for coming along, and it's been really interesting to hear all the things that are going on. I just wondered, we have locally in Horsforth a careers engagement meeting coming up in April, and that's at the local library. I just wondered, can I expect that this is integrated into that, or if not, is there some way of contacting so that I can request that it is?
Yeah, we'd be happy to. I'm not aware it's in our diary at the moment. That doesn't mean it's not. I can check, but yeah, if you want to contact me and send me details, we'll make sure that we can come along to that now.
And one more question, if that's okay. So recently I went along to our local high school that was getting advice on their climate action plan. And they weren't quite sure how to advise and give to support to students in their emerging, need to information around green jobs. And so I wondered how we're looking at reaching out at academies, as it is an academy, and maybe that fluctuates slightly differently in the networks that they're involved in. And if in terms of them building their climate action plans at the moment and that becoming part of policy, if it's something that can be integrated at the same time.
It would be very logical that we could integrate it, and we will happily work with them whether they're an academy or a maintained school. So if they're not part of our careers network at the moment, or they're not sure on what might be out there to help them, they can speak to our advisor in the employment skills team, and we can provide advice if we can do so. If we need more specialist advice, we can broker in the support that they need as well, and make them aware of the range of projects that are out there. So again, you can use me as the point of access for that, and I'll take that forward now.
Apologise for the influx of emails coming your way.
Thank you. Okay, so that sounds useful. Anybody else want to come in? Can I just ask 3 of mine if nobody does? Okay, so just 3 quick ones for you, Gillian. The first one was, you mentioned the Growing Green work being done by a head partnership. Will that continue? Because I think you said that was going to be funded by employers. The second one was the Green Innovators, was it the primary school project? That sounds like something that we would really like to hear more about. So very much welcome the report when it comes out. Do you have a date for that? Is my second question. And then my last one, the work training people up to fit external wall insulation. Are there any requirements in terms of qualifications? Who is that aimed at? Thank you.
I'll take your first 2 questions together because they're both on the same side of the same coin. So the Growing Green work from the AHEAD partnerships, it is now a commercial offer. So AHEAD partnership is a project that they are committed to. They're a very strong organisation with a lot of employer links, and they are still delivering. So I will get an updated report on them about where they are delivering. But yes, if there is interest and they do have a lot of employers that are keen to work with them on this, they will continue to deliver that. The primary school project, I did ask the same question about when that report would be available from Wyker officers last week. The project finishes at the end of this month. They're hoping to have an interim report very quickly afterwards, and then a final report at the end of April. So I will share that as soon as I can. I have asked the question about the sustainability of that project. I'm not sure what that is yet. So again, as soon as I know, I will feed back on that. I think a lot of that will come out of the evaluation and what outcomes it has delivered as to how we can sustain that activity. And the final question is, the external wall installation training is currently aimed at people that are out of work. It's classed as a sector-based work academy, which means that we are working with Job Centre Plus on that activity. The qualifications, I'm not 100% sure what qualifications people get, the technical term of it. Nikki, you might know more, but we'll find out and feed that back to you. No.
Thank you. Okay, thanks for that first part of the presentation, and thank you to everybody for questions. I don't see anybody else wanting to come in, so shall we hand over to providers and you can move on to the next bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so for those of you who aren't aware of the college, so Leeds College of Building, we have about 5,000 students, 2 campuses in the city. We train the largest number of construction apprentices in the country with just short of 3,000, all in the construction and built environment sector. 40% of those apprentices are national, so we have a national presence as well as a regional and a local one. And we now have just short of 1,350 young people studying construction courses and a range of adults studying at the college. And when we talk about Leeds College of Building, building covers far more than the traditional trades. So we deliver everything from level 2 trades that you would typically think of to things like transport planning. We're the only provider of that apprenticeship in the country, working with Aston University for the progression route. To degrees, we deliver 5 different degree apprenticeship routes across civil engineering, quantity surveying, and we are the largest provider of construction higher and degree apprentices in the country, delivering across a whole range of areas. One of the growth areas for the college is around the sustainable building services. That's where your traditional plumbing, electrical, and heating and vent sits. These are growth areas, but not as big as what you'd think in terms of demand. I'm sure there'll be questions as we go through. And apologies, so there's a lot of information. I tried to keep the slides short, but then put far too much information on the slides. And construction and the carbon emissions, it's not a pleasant picture. Construction is a very carbon heavy sector, and it's growing in importance for employers. And you can see the data there in terms of the actual carbon consumption. So employers are very mindful of this, and the industry is trying to reduce its emissions. The use of low carbon materials, prefabrication and offsite manufacturing are areas that keep being talked about. There hasn't yet been a sustainable business model for offsite manufacturing yet, and potentially things like the Building Safety Act brought in after Grenfell have contributed to that, because it's getting that through the planning stages that's very difficult. Clearly, there's a push for integrating renewable energy, whether that's heat pumps, solar, PV, and different types of energy. And importantly, that buildings are being designed to be energy efficient from the beginning. And that's growing in terms of what customers are asking for, and also how people are designing buildings so that they work better with the environment around them. And that's feeding in through planning and changes there, which should increase the focus on this for buildings. So how it links to skills, the question was asked around, does everybody at the college study sustainability? And the answer is yes. Every student that studies at the college will study an element of sustainability. We do have the typical student tutorial program that looks at sustainability in their own lives and in their work, but it's written large through every qualification. It's part and parcel of what they do, whether they're an electrician or they're a joiner or a quantity surveyor. These skills that are relevant to them are part and parcel of what we have to train them to do. And in some cases, it's part of a qualification. In others, it's beyond the qualification, because qualification reform is quite slow and technology is moving faster than the qualifications allow. So in some areas, we're teaching it because we know that that's what employers are delivering on the ground. And that adds challenges in terms of some of the things that we have to teach and the technology we're having to utilize. But that's just how the industry is changing at the moment. And there are new materials and technology that's coming on stream, and that requires upskilling of the workforce. So the workforce that we now have are the workforce that will deliver the 1.5 million new homes, the 700,000 homes across the region that need retrofitting. It's not all about new entrants. So there is a big demand for upskilling of those workers. And that's not easy in a market or a construction sector that is aging. Lots of people who are over the age of 55, and not as many people coming into the sector as currently is needed because of the skill shortages. So across Yorkshire and Humber, we need 26,000 more workers in construction alone. And that's just to fill retirement and projects that were planned pre the data. So all the ones that are listed there, none of those were included in the needs for that workforce. And the risk is that some of these projects will be slower and will be more expensive as a result. And with national infrastructure projects and nationally important projects, things like the Lower Thames Crossing, they will drain the skills from the local area into those big projects if things are delayed locally. In terms of the college, as I say, we are we do have a national profile. We're the only Leeds is the only city in the country that has a college which is dedicated to construction and the built environment. And there did used to be apparently a few colleges that did this, but Leeds is the last one standing. And as a result of that, we have a national presence. So I sit on the Construction Skills Mission Board, which feeds into national strategy around how do we tackle skills shortages in construction, and that's a whole other meeting, really. I sit on the CITB, so the Construction Industry Training Board, working with them. The college is the Yorkshire and Humber Construction Technical Excellence College, which is a new initiative announced by government to, really tackle the skill shortage. When the government's talking about the industrial strategy and achieving the growth that it requires, a lot of it requires construction workers and projects to underpin the ambitions. As I say, we're the largest provider nationally. We also have that local footprint of supporting the reduction of NEETs in the city, which is clearly an important part of us. And a question was asked earlier around how do we attract more young people into construction? And the answer for me really is really simple. You don't need to. The students want to come. There is just no space. And that's the reality. The college is full, and we have just bought a new building over the road from our North Street campus. And at the moment, there is currently no capital funding that will finish that building. So the student demand is not a problem. Every college in the country has a waiting list for construction courses. So the attraction into the industry is high. What construction has is an absorption problem. How do we get those young people into the industry? And that's part of the national work that the college is doing. And that's really important. When we're talking about green jobs, in reality, every job in construction is a green job, and there aren't many, apart from some very, very specialist roles that purely focus on sustainability. But every part of the construction sector has a role to play in the reduction of emissions, in the increasing energy consumption, and young people want to go into the sector. We're trying to increase apprenticeships in this age range. That's very, very difficult in the market at the moment. The employment market for apprenticeships is quite tough with the increases to minimum wage and national insurance contributions in some areas. We're trying to increase capacity for full-time programmes and really trying to deliver the full breadth of programme that's required for sustainable careers in construction. And as Gillian has mentioned, we're working across the board with upskilling programmes to train adults, not just those who are in employment, but those who are hardest to reach from the jobs market as well, and how we support young people with SEND issues to get into construction as well, because the skills demands are so high. So I'm not really talking about a lot around green and sustainable and those things, because in construction it's everything, and every part of what we do is around the sustainability agenda. The changes to procurement that's going through Parliament at the moment will put more of a focus on this in terms of what comes out and the types of buildings that are commissioned, and how that works and what the return in terms of sustainability is. And people are trained according to the building regulations for their part of the industry, and those all take into account the need for sustainability. And quite frankly, a lot of the procurement, if you aren't delivering sustainable materials technology, you aren't winning contracts. So there's an economic imperative for people to do this. In terms of help that the college needs, we need you to know that we're here, that we are, the city only has, we're the only city that has this institution, and it should be celebrated. It's a really important nationally within the construction sector. You mentioned Cadix earlier, and Paul Caddick is an ex-student, and there are multiple examples of our alumni that now run huge construction companies across the country. The mention, that's the new building opposite our North Street campus. That's what it will look like, and we will submit planning, and then we have to stop. We've invested £3.5, nearly £4 million in that building, supported by the local authority through the capacity funds, and we can go no further. But actually, there's a skilled workforce waiting to deliver sustainability at scale. That building will house 2,133 new students. It is that exact, yeah. And across a whole range of facilities, it will enable us to open up capacity for an additional 700 in the buildings we've currently got. So almost an additional 3,000 students going into construction. And when you think that our typical graduate salary is at least 10% higher than somebody coming out of university, and our heating and ventilation students who complete their course at approximately 21 can command a salary of 80,000. These are good, well-paid jobs in growing sectors. And I'm sure there are lots of questions, but I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Absolutely fascinating. So we'll do another pause, and we'll have questions specifically for Nikki. But if any of them stray into anything that can be picked up afterwards, we'll pick them up afterwards. So we'll start with Councillor Stables and then Councillor Harrington.
Thank you. Really interesting talk. Obviously vital that we get all these apprenticeships trained, because they're massively needed in the country at the moment. So what I don't quite understand is why you're not getting the capital, and I'm sure everybody's thinking the same thing. You're on the Construction Industry Training Board, so what is the rationale? Why are you told that you're not getting this funding, given that there's a massive shortfall in the number of apprenticeships, the number of skilled workers out there to do the building that's required across the country?
Yeah, it's a frustration, and I suppose there are two parts to it. There is a pot of capital which has become available through the Combined Authority, and the total for all 7 colleges that sit within that area is just over 12 million. That's going to go nowhere near the demands that are needed with the demographic rises that are happening in colleges across the region at the moment. So 12.5 million will not go that far. As a FE college, since we were moved back into the public sector, we can no longer borrow commercially. And so that is one hand tied behind our back. The other one is tied behind our back because we cannot also borrow from DFE. So the only route that's being explored at the moment is a potential borrowing with the Combined Authority. But even that is at the very early stages, and there's no legal way of doing that yet. So we're a financially resilient organisation. We are prepared to commit some of our own funding to this, but we can't afford all of it. And we're trying desperately to meet the government's priorities and how we can support young people to access that provision locally to get them into really well-paid jobs. And it's like doing it blindfolded with both hands tied behind your back at the moment.
I can completely understand your frustration, and it just seems completely ridiculous that on the one hand the government is saying we want to build all these houses and we need to upskill people. On the other hand, they're not providing the finance to enable you as the main provider, sounds like, to do what you need to do. I think that's crazy, absolutely crazy.
Thank you. I think I'm inclined to agree. Councillor Harrington.
Thank you, Chair. It's just a clarification point. You mentioned about the training and you said something about over 55s. So is that you can't get funding to actually put on the training courses for over 55s? Or is it a perception that people over 55 don't want to bother training, or that they haven't got long enough left to utilise training? Because most people have to work now to the 67. So there's quite a big chunk of time that they could still utilise those skills. Thank you.
Yeah, it's more the fact that and it does vary across different parts of the sector. You know, most people in construction will not work until they're 67, mainly because they can't. You know, construction is also quite a well-paid, productive job. So there are parts of it that don't actually need to. So if you take electrical, for example, a lot of them will work until they're around that age, and then they'll wind the business up. And so there isn't that throughput going all the way to 67. In other areas, it's the physical demands and people are retiring early.
Thank you. Councillor Carlill's next, and then Councillor Shazad.
Thank you. It's more of a general question, really, and just a clarification. So one of the points you just brought up there was, am I right in that it was you saying effectively Leeds is the only place with a building college that is purely linked to building left? And I wonder in that case what's happened to all the others in one way, and so that's sort of the first part, and are they kind of subsumed into others? And as a second part, what then is the opportunity for us in Leeds to really jump on that? That gives us as Leeds something very different from everywhere else, in an opportunity to grab hold of some brand new sectors that I know you are already doing, but what then would be the real key opportunity we should take as part of that, or as members we should help with?
Okay, yes, the other colleges have been subsumed over time into other general further education colleges, and I think it's actually probably a real shame, because the benefit we have is that we're specialists. And the college is recognised as having that expertise. So we support Skills England, or IFE in its previous existence, with writing qualifications. We sit on national panels. We do all of that really technical work, and the college benefits from working with over 800 employers across the country. And the name and that specialism really helps. In terms of opportunities, I think the college has traditionally been a little insular. And has been a bit inward looking, and that has meant that there has been. I always remember I had a conversation with Tom Reardon before when I first got this job, and said, "What do you know about the college?" And he says, "I only hear good things. I just don't hear them enough." And I think that's part of the message, is that we need to be telling people what we do, and utilising this committee and members to really shout about what's in it, because everybody in this room will have residents that attend our college. We'll have employers who send their apprentices to us, and it's just utilising it at every opportunity. And when meetings are in the council, it's joining the dots to actually, if we want to address green skills and sustainability, is how can the capital work? How can you support in some of those areas as well?
Just a very brief comment. I mean, as a parent of a 12-year-old who's probably taking my doors off at home at present, or taking a motor apart or something, then I mean, I'd absolutely want the college to be there for people for who could take part in this new world. Absolutely create some real positives. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shazad.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for that update. Really, it's outstanding to hear that the college is full. There's more demand, and you bought another building. It's a shame, as Councillor has pointed out, that you just haven't got the funding. I'm surprised the government is not getting involved, and actually or the mayoral authority getting involved and trying to help this college to come forward to actually get all the plans in for our climate and net zero ambitions. A quick question I wanted to ask was, what is the equal diversity inclusion rate of your students? Because there's many students who feel like they want to get into building and into everything else that's involved in the construction industry, but they probably feel like they haven't got the opportunities. And obviously with the college being full, I could understand why there isn't that many opportunities. The other question I sometimes get asked by students is that when they require a placement, they find it a struggle whilst they're working, doing the course at the college, and they struggle to find a placement to go to, and that always causes a hindrance and causes issues. So if you've got any updates on that, appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of our students and the demographics that we work with, gender is probably the most disappointing, and is actually representative of the industry in terms of it's getting worse, despite a lot of work that happens. So the college is 92% male. And that's actually 4% better than the industry, but that's, coming from a very low base. In terms of our ethnicity split, and you'd have to look at the different provision types for this, but generally for our 16 to 18s, we're far more diverse than the city. So we pull in from a whole range of different demographics and ethnicities. When people move into apprenticeships, that changes completely, and our apprenticeship demographics is really quite disappointing. It's very white male. And as a college, we're slightly different in terms of how it operates. We don't recruit our apprentices. The employer comes to us with the apprentice. And that's one of the reasons why I sit on the mission board, is to continually challenge the employers nationally about the recruitment practices in construction, because they're not equitable. And people, if you don't have connections, you don't get in. It's too hard for people to get in. And so we're working on that nationally. There's also a retention issue. Once people are into the sector, and people with people from different ethnicities and females in particular, retention data is shocking. So there's a whole cultural thing in construction that's fairly straightforward. In terms of SEND and those with disabilities, again, our in local data is positive in this regard. We do an awful lot of work with students with additional needs to support them. But you're absolutely right about placements. It's very, very difficult to get placements in the sector. We work really hard to get people out onto sites. There is obviously the health and safety that has to be taken into account. But we do work with a lot of employers who are brilliant at allowing people onto site and through various stages of the project. Our South Bank campus, we've got developers on either side of us, and you've got chalk and cheese in terms of what their the opportunities are. One was brilliant, built a classroom on site, worked with the Luminate group as well, to really offer the opportunities for students to come around and see. The other one on the other side, absolutely no engagement. And so what we're pushing for is the social value part, to have more teeth, and to really hold employers to account, and not just the subcontractors in the pipeline, but the tier ones, because it's too easy to pass it on. In terms of responsibility, and really supporting the subcontractors to support young people coming into the industry.
And do you think anything the council can do to actually improve this apprenticeship take-up? I mean, by employers to actually take on more diverse people with diverse backgrounds and ethnicities, and what can be done to maybe then encourage people from diverse ethnicities to actually stay in the construction industry longer, if there's any solution that you think that might help?
Excuse me. Yeah, in terms of we work really closely with Gillian's team in the employment and skills area, and we're currently working on streamlining and making it easier for employers to see what support we need. At the moment, there's far too many asks of employers. At the last count, there were 27 different things that we asked employers to engage with us on, and it's far too complicated. They've got a day job to do. So we're working on having a much clearer offer to those employers to hopefully support that engagement. And in terms of support, we'll just continue to work with Gillian's team and expand that across. I think in terms of diversity, I think we need to work with employers on their hiring practices, and utilise that, not necessarily through Gillian's team, but through organisations like CITB, who may potentially could have that influence in the area. Because the big companies are more diverse when you look at their breakdowns, but so much of the market is SMEs and micros. It's those that really skew the data. On our higher and degree apprentices, we've probably got 40% female and much higher in terms of ethnicity as well. It's the trade areas that are really really poor.
Thank you. Really interesting to hear that that's all going on in the background. It's quite a big job, I would imagine, quite a challenge. Councillor Bromley.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions. In terms of women being employed in the construction sector, you'll be aware of the WOW ban that went up under West Yorkshire Mayor, which I know is going across to Kirkstall Valley Farm, and so maybe linking in so that we can make sure that that's a continuation of women construction. Secondly, is there any way that we can write as a board in support of this, flagging the difficulties and that we share the concerns that have been brought to us today? And just a clarification as well as to who exactly it is that we're asking that from, because I know there's a mention of it's not suitable for the DFE, but it's more of the combined authority, but also an internally, externally lobbying would be ideal. So I just so that we have a clarification around that, really, who we're addressing to.
Yes, so in terms of the point on the WOW ban, yes, we trained 300 women in joinery skills, me being one of them, to go and put that barn up. So we engaged with the combined authority from the very outset of that, putting that barn up in very bad weather overnight. So yes, and any lobbying we would be really, really appreciative of.
Thank you. Yeah, Councillor Ray.
Sorry. Thanks, Emily, for mentioning the WOW ban, which is currently sat at Kirkstall Valley Farm. We've got outlining planning permission, so I may be in touch with you for some support. It is really frustrating to think that now we've got a plumber as an MP that's female, that it's still out of women's reach. And do you think that's just literally because it's almost an old boys club where, you know, small firms recruit people they know and it just perpetuates the same behaviours?
I suppose yes and no, I suppose. Yes, I mean, when I saw the new MP and I thought, actually, that's one less woman in construction. So that's not always positive. But you know, as a role model, great. I think the issue is one is recruitment and attracting more women into construction, and the other is how do you retain people in a workplace when you still have you go on site and you still have to ask for a key for the toilet because it's locked and it's full of toilet rolls and it's the storage area. So how welcome does that make people feel when they're on site? And some of those things still exist. And you talk to the large companies about these things and they say, well, it's a zero tolerance approach. It's not. No, that's the reality.
Thank you. Wow, huge amount of work to be done there. Anybody else that I've missed who would like to come in? Okay, so just to bring that part to a close, Nikki, you asked us to promote and celebrate the college, which I'm sure we would be happy to do, and to visit. I mean, in my previous life, I've been many times, but I think it would be really good. I was just flicking forward to our forward plan, and we are going to be looking at some work on infrastructure, and that it might be an appropriate opportunity for us to come along and see what you're doing and share, you know, particularly the sustainability aspect. So if people are happy to look at that, we can look at that. And then, as Councillor Bromley suggested, yes, happy if other board members are happy for us to write as a board. You know, if you'd like to let us know, Nikki, where our lobbying should be directed, we'd be more than happy to do that.
Yeah, and I will circulate details on that. It's not that people aren't willing, people don't, you know, that people aren't understanding of the need. It's just literally the you know the system that's frustrating.
Thank you, but I think you've explained very well what a unique position we are in as a city, and how special you are, and it's good to have you, and also the requirements in terms of the future skills, particularly in terms of sustainable construction that are going to be required, and how absolutely necessary it is. So I think we'd be more than happy to support. Okay, thank you very much. Then let's move on to Luminate, who are going to do the next bit.
Afternoon, everybody. Thanks for having us here this afternoon. I'm Joanne Patrickson. I'm Director of Skills and Growth Funding Team at Luminate, but also the Project Director at the West Yorkshire Consortium Colleges. So I have the great pleasure of working with Nikki a lot and our other 5 colleges across West Yorkshire. But I think it's also fair to say, I think Luminate and the Leeds College of Building work very closely together, don't we? I think probably more than any out of the whole 7. Yeah. So it's no secret, is it, that net zero won't be delivered through policy alone. It has to be through people skills and workforce capability. And as every aspect of the net zero transition really does depend on a workforce and having those right skills in place. So with this in mind, FE really does sit in the heart of it, connecting learners, employers and those regional priorities together. So I'm hoping this presentation will kind of highlight some of the great work that's taking place at Luminate in terms of developing and delivering those green skills, but also kind of considering what we may need to do to scale it up so we really do meet those ambitions and those net zero targets to 2035. So we're already embedding sustainability across the group. Sorry, what I should have said was, you may be more familiar with Leeds City College opposed to Luminate. So just to kind of explain, Luminate is a group structure and it does incorporate a number of member colleges. So we've got Harrogate College in that, we have Leeds City College, Keighley College and the University Centre, which is a new building based down at Mabgate, delivering provision from level 4, 5, 6 and 7 onwards. So, and that all comes under the group structure of Luminate Education Group. So apologies, just thought I'd better explain that to colleagues. So yeah, while we are embedding sustainability across the group, I think it's fair to say there's probably some inconsistencies alongside some really great examples of green skills within our curriculum offer. And those examples really do show where sustainability has been embedded, and there's some very technical provision in terms of delivering the sustainability aspects as well. So about 2 years ago, we conducted an audit of our green skills provision. We identified there was about 100 courses at the time that really integrated sustainability, and these were no surprise, particularly across engineering, digital and science disciplines. Amongst that we're also we have developed and delivered some more carbon literacy type programmes, employer-led boot camps and climate action focused short courses, which I can come on to in a little bit later in a bit more detail. But within this area, we have recognised that it's not just about creating small number of specialist green courses or accredited units. It is also about embedding sustainability across the whole curriculum so that learners really do develop knowledge and the behaviours and awareness required for a low carbon economy as well. So following on from the audit, we are introducing at the moment some zero carbon curriculum planning statements for all of the curriculum areas. These do very much align our net zero commitments, aligned to our net zero commitments, and also are underpinned by approach which we've got on a group-wide approach to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And that really does provide a more globally recognised framework and a common language, which will allow kind of more consistency and application of sustainability across the varying different subject areas that we have. So a key aspect being identified is that green skills are being embedded within the curriculum and delivery, but not just delivered in isolation. So we're seeing more around how sustainability is being reflected in more about how we teach and how learners apply their skills in kind of real world settings rather than specific green technical qualifications. And hopefully that will ultimately also support more whole organisational cultural shift rather than a series of standalone initiatives as well. Where we're seeing strong integration of green skill qualifications in the technical disciplines, such as engineering, digital and science, jumps there. Excuse me. I've completely lost my plot there. So where we are seeing some of those real strengths, we're also seeing where there's some gaps in other curriculum areas where equally there could be more stronger steps taken to embed those specific qualifications. So we're working in developing those areas as we're moving forward. And I'll come on to some an example within sustainable technologies where it is working really well. And with that in mind, that kind of really does give us an opportunity to present growth and development in this area. And as mentioned before, we're seeing a consistent approach in terms of developing a green thread. So ensuring all of those learners really do engage with those core sustainability principles, regardless of, of the subject that's been delivered. So an example of that would be in hair, we're seeing how kind of we've got reduced waste plastic and less toxic hair dyes within the curriculum. So as mentioned, it does really help create a more consistent baseline and knowledge across the behaviours. So kind of coming on to one particular area, which is a really great example of where we're developing the new provision, is our sustainable technologies area. So colleagues in that department have developed an integrated model which is combining automotive, electrical and sustainable technologies. And this also includes electrical vehicle, hybrid safety, electrical pathways, inter-renewables and low carbon repair practices. We're seeing really strong employer engagement in this, with provision being co-designed by employers to make sure it really does kind of reflect that real world industry need. And we're actually starting to see quite a high learner demand for this, which again highlights opportunity and growth, but also the need to scale that provision as well. So over the past year, that team have brought together sustainable technologies, automotive and electrical into a single focus department designed specifically to respond to the growing need and demand for green skills. And as mentioned before, we're seeing a strong learner demand, and this has been very kind of prolific within the new level 2 sustainability qualification, which at the moment is exceeding recruitment expectations. And at the same time, they've started to embed green skills directly into curriculum, other areas including EV, hybrid safety, level 3, and alongside quite a considerable investment in ADAS, which is the assisted driving technologies, and investing in the equipment and the staff capability as well. That team as well being really keen to develop some progression pathways. They don't want to see it standalone provision. So in terms of the trying to build in those clear progression routes from entry level through to level 3 apprenticeships and employment. But with that, and I think it's kind of it's nothing new that colleagues haven't said before, that kind of creates additional pressures with growth really starting to stretch in that particular area around workshop space, equipment and staffing capacity. So looking ahead, we've got some real clear regional opportunities. We know there's kind of mass transit is coming, and that is really going to drive demand for new skills in electrification, maintenance and safety. Luminate are working with employer partnerships with organisations such as Toyota, Skoda and Lexus, and alongside some local employees as well, which really is helping to shape that curriculum. Alongside this, that team are also starting to build some future focused pathways, including looking at wind and solar PV energy storage, which obviously align to those net zero priorities. And increasingly, the model is becoming more employer-led, which is giving learners more exposure to industry through site visits and practical applications. And there is an ambition as well within that particular department to make it a regional hub for sustainable automotive, electrical and transport skills as well. So kind of like looking at more wider provision across the group, we've undertaken some research over the past couple of years in terms of how businesses and the demand for green skills. And we're seeing that many of the businesses probably are more of an early stage of a green transition. So unlike the construction side, the demand that we're seeing is more around awareness and culture and leadership capability. So within that, we developed some programs around climate action in the workplace. We've delivered quite a lot of carbon literacy programs, and also developed some sustainable leadership programs where we can start to drive the greens net zero from the top down, and kind of have a real cultural shift which can help businesses move forward and build those foundations required before we kind of move on to the demand for more technical skills in some businesses. But within that, we're kind of also seeing some key system changes which need to be addressed. No secrets, you won't be surprised, funding. Green skills provision really does require significant investment. And we've been really fortunate in the past with the West Yorkshire Consortium of Colleges and the collection across the 7 colleges. We've seen some significant investment coming through from DFE to be able to support through the local skills improvement funding and also sustainable development funding as well. But at the moment, it's a little bit arid, and that funding which we require for that continuous capacity building and development of new provision is really needed, so we can invest in those sustainability skills. Secondly is the workforce, where we're seeing a shortage of tutors with required green skills, technical expertise. And then the third aspect is limiting is probably the qualification side, where we're seeing limited green content within the award and body organisation frameworks. So embedding this work really does kind of take time, resource and space for us to innovate as well. So to move from progress to scale, we really do need to address more long-term flexible funding, which is support sustainable development, invest in the workplace, particularly in recruiting and upskilling tutors, and support for SME engagement across helping to bring those businesses together in a more coordinated approach across Leeds and West Yorkshire. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing that. Some really interesting work going on. I'm going to open up for questions, and I'm also going to ask if anybody asked any questions initially of Gillian that we were going to come back to that we've forgotten about. Will you remind us, and we can pick those up as well. So anybody got any questions at this point? Councillor Shazad?
Hi, thanks for all the work that you're doing. I just wanted to know, is any of your provision open in the evenings to those people that might want to actually retrain, or any sort of courses that might be free in a sense, that because lots of people do want to retrain into other jobs, and especially into sustainable jobs and construction jobs, but they just don't have as the college is full as it is. And do you have any spaces availability for such courses, and maybe preferably where they can get some help with it, i.e. it's not costing a lot of money?
I certainly know within the provision where we've got some very strong, more technical, sustainable provision down at our Printworks campus, that space is at a premium simply because there's a really high demand for the provision within that area. We do run offer in the evening. Colleagues from that area will be able to tell you more detail about it, but we certainly do open in an evening as well. So the college is open for adult provision on an evening, and we are supported through adult skills funding to be able to support people in certain qualifications up to certain levels as well.
Yeah, thanks for that. It'd be great if you do have that information, if you can actually share it with either our board or with the council, so we can actually share some of that information, because we do get residents obviously of a certain age who probably can't search that information on the net, or maybe need some help with that. Thank you.
Yeah, certainly. I'll make sure that gets sent over. Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. And that's an interesting question, because we have discussed that before, and I'm trying to remember where it came up in a discussion, but the idea that if somebody's busy working at their trade all day, it's very difficult to have the capacity to retrain, isn't it? And so, you know, those opportunities are really needed. Anybody else got any questions? Okay, can I just ask a couple then, if that's okay? One of the things you mentioned was energy storage and technical skills for that, and for wind turbine. Are there qualifications? I'm a little bit in the dark about that, but is there a specific qualification in that field?
Testing my knowledge here. Can this be something I could send on to you? These are new qualifications which are in development, certainly from a college at the moment. Luminate don't deliver them, but they're in our pipeline of development. So in terms of what that would look like, in terms of the qualifications, the size, the scope, I can certainly go back to some colleagues within that particular area and find out what is being developed, and they will have a lot more knowledge, and I can provide that to you. But yeah, it's certainly an area of interest, isn't it? And something, yeah.
Well, it is. It's an area of interest, and it's also an area where the skills are not only needed today, but I think in the future are going to become really, really important. So I just wondered whether you could go as a young person and directly move into a qualification that specifically prepares you for that line of work. But I think Nikki wanted to come in.
Yeah, just to pick up, there are some qualifications in this area in terms of apprenticeships, but they are quite new. And both Luminate and the college are working with Balfour Beatty, who have a contract to provide electrical storage of some degree across between the Midlands up to Scotland. So we're working on being that training provider that supports them in that endeavour. But it involves working with a company of the size of Balfour's to look at the kit that they need for them to invest that into the college, because they're using equipment that we certainly can't afford, and it has very, very strict safety rules around it for obvious reasons. So the two institutions are working with employers such as Balfour's to develop programmes in this area, and that will include the wind turbines as well.
Thank you. I shall watch that with great interest. I don't know whether anybody can answer this, but it's something that is kind of interesting to me, that you saw that we had some really well engaged primary school students, and I've done a lot of work with primaries, and there's a huge interest in this agenda, and to some extent in secondaries as well. I was in 2 secondary schools last week talking to some really engaged young people. So does that continue into kind of level 3 provision? Do you find, talking to students on the ground, that people are interested in careers, but also responding to the climate emergency in general?
Generally, it wanes the older they get. And yes, there's a lot of engaged primary schools, and we work with the Leeds Learning Alliance in sustainability and working across the whole age spectrum. But certainly with our students, I'm thinking about our full-time students rather than our apprentices. Nearly 70% of those students are coming from the lowest deciles of deprivation, and the general conversation is, quite frankly, they've got more to worry about than that, and that's a real concern, which is why we use the curriculum to tackle the sustainability angle, because it's not coming through as their overriding concern. I think if you've got A-level students in colleges and students from different backgrounds and demographics, I think there's more concern in those areas and more engagement. But certainly at the college, it's not a priority for our students.
Thank you. Anybody else want to come in on that?
Yeah, I'll just come in from a kind of adult perspective, and particularly people that are kind of unemployed and out of work. It's not a priority necessarily for them. It's about finding a job. That may change because the adults that we're working with may not have been exposed to some of this in school. So we may find that changes over time. But certainly at the moment, similar to as Nikki said, when you're working with people that are dealing with a lot, particularly from kind of deprived areas, and are looking for work, their priority is getting a job, not necessarily getting a job that's contributing towards the net zero agenda.
Thank you for that. And it's particularly interesting when you think about kind of young people and the fact that our climate is changing and nobody's going to be able to escape that, and they're going to spend more time living through it. So I'm really pleased that the work is being done. Appreciate that. So anybody got any more questions on this item? Okay, I'll finish by saying thank you. Thank you particularly to our two providers for coming and giving up your valuable time today. I really do appreciate that, because I can imagine you've got plenty of other things on your plate as well. So thank you for that. And Gillian, thank you for bringing it all together and pulling it together as an item. It's really interesting. I think we've learnt a lot and we've got a lot to take forward to in terms of future work that we can do. So thank you very much for that item. Okay, I'll just give people a minute to finish. Anybody wants to grab a quick drink, you're welcome to. Okay, so that brings us on to our last item, and those of you who've been with us on this committee before will know that we have two goes at the forward plan. In this meeting, we look at it in outline and look at the themes that we're going to go through, and then it comes back to us at the first meeting of the next municipal year in a more kind of planned out form. So I'm going to hand over to Rachel or Polly, whoever's going to do this. Okay, Rachel, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, as Councillor Dyes just said, pretty much as we know, it's like a two-step process. I'm just going to pull up the as I'm talking through it, the actual part of the plan on screen. So what we're going to do is continue on, as we said, for next year, similar to what we've done this year. We'll have the 3 open forum slots once again, as proven just on today's alone. We obviously, it's wonderful to have people in to speak about everything that they're doing from different schools, community groups, or businesses, and hopefully, obviously, depending on different things, if there are many familiar faces around here in the next municipal year, it'd be great to obviously get the word out again, because it really does it puts a smile on people's faces at the start when we've got sort of such positive things coming forward. We will have the workshops updates if we've had a workshop, which is obviously quite a common sense way about things. And we appreciate this year with just like different changing of directors and some swappings around of that. We've not had probably quite as consistent directors updates this year, but we're sort of moving back into, as soon as we've got all the confirmed dates for the next year, we will have those all in place. So we'll have directors updates throughout the course of the year. In terms of the main committee itself, as it was just mentioned then, we are continuing with the substantive theme for each session, because we personally feel that that's actually worked a lot better. It's been a lot more fluid. As we've just had today, it gives opportunity to provide an internal update as such, but then we like to bring in the external partners, and we feel it sort of opens up that breadth of opportunity for people from different businesses or companies to actually come forward and talk about what they're doing as well. So it'll be no surprise that the first session will be the finalised forward plan for 26-27. So that will be a lot more structured in terms of aligning it to the dates for the year, as well as a bit more detail as to what these themes may look like. But in terms of the themes themselves, we've got the supporting and enhancing nature and biodiversity through climate change. I know we've had a piece on it earlier in this year, but we are well aware of the fact that we do find now there's a lot more correspondence and communication, especially from our communities, in relation to biodiversity, nature in emergencies, and I mean, just something even on the national level, as we know, something as simple as the Bank of England notes wanting to be changed to showing wildlife. It just shows, obviously, that's a lot more at the heart of what people are thinking. So with that, we'll do similar. We'll have probably updates from our own teams, but we'll also have different, like the charities or different partnerships that we work with coming in to talk about the work that they're doing. Quite nicely, as mentioned, we've got a update on infrastructure, regeneration and planning. We're kind of linking all those together because there's a lot of big, obviously, developments happening throughout the city centre and beyond over the next couple of years. And as mentioned, it'd be quite nice as well if we've got the likes of Leeds College Building coming back. We can sort of integrate that and definitely broaden it to include sort of the whole process from the education side all the way through to the actual big projects themselves happening. We felt as well that the last session that we had at the relating to climate sustainability in hospitality, events and culture was very well received by us all, and it was something quite refreshing to actually talk about. So by the time we come around to the next cycle, we will have had the Roundy Festival, we will have had a couple of other things that have gone through, so they'll be able to report back and see what can be changed and done for next time. We welcome back as well potentially people from those sporting organisations who have published the plans that they were spoken about. So it's a really nice one to keep in touch with and to keep moving with, and perhaps feed it into different policy of our own. We've got the next one's kind of it's the waste management, because we're conscious of the fact we've not had quite an update in a while from waste management perspective, linking it in with circular economy, but recognising the fact that circular economy isn't just restricted to waste itself. So there's been quite a lot of policy from a more regional angle that's come through with different businesses and communities throughout the wider Yorkshire region that have successfully worked sort of links through very well with circular economy. And to be fair, a lot of it, when you look on a Leeds perspective, is about a case of just linking together what we already have. And it'd be nice to hear again from groups who are doing that. Your repair cafes, different things that happen in the wards, in the communities. So, but we are conscious it's something that perhaps we've not touched upon for a little while, apart from those of you who may have been in the previous working groups when we used to sort of sometimes talk about it. And then we thought it'd be quite nice to have local businesses coming in to talk about what they're doing to address climate emergency. We often obviously talk about what we're doing ourselves, what the bigger companies are doing, but sometimes there's a really good network opportunity for the small business owners and what we can do. I know it's depends in this day and age with other factors that they're understandably prioritising more, but potentially hear about what they're making, what changes they're making, and how we can perhaps support them through that field. The next one is climate and sustainability in our communities, because not to jump forward in a sense, but also to kind of jump forward, what we're looking at doing is for the workshop theme for the next municipal year is actually dropping more into communities. So those of you who might have been on, have obviously come along to the workshop this year when we've had communication engagement, had a very successful piece of work, which is pretty much there with relaunching Leeds by Example website. But the what we're looking to do is kind of continue that comms and engagement work, but how we wanted to push it out further into the communities. So it will look more, we'll obviously have a bit more structured to it once we go into it, but the idea would be is that how we can look at working with our communities a lot more and embed that climate aspect, but in the way that we have to do for comms and engagement, recognising what their priorities are and how we look at different communities. Not all communities are the same, and just really sort of look at making a change and sort of almost giving the power back to the communities to lead on that as well. So that'd be kind of where we're looking at for that period of time. And then probably unsurprising to hear that the last few were not really much to say about this. The usual annual report of CEAT that goes to full council, as well as the annual climate emergency update report, which will obviously both fall towards the end of the year. And have to put it on there, discussion of draft forward plan for the 27-20 municipal year, which seems quite a way away at the moment. So yeah, and obviously I've talked about the workshops. So that's just sort of where we are at the moment. And like I say, it'll be as it stands with the schedule, and probably more towards the July time, which is when the first potential meeting is, and that's when we'll have it all planned out and a bit more broken down, who will be coming, etc.
Thank you, Rachel, for sharing that. Any questions, comments about those plans? Councillor Bromley was first, then Councillor Stable.
Thank you. Just a quick one, Rachel. The submitting stuff to go across, I didn't get that across that I was planning on putting across. Is there still time to do that? I think it was on the website. It was being looked into by 2 students.
Yeah, that's fine. If you don't send anything across, that's absolutely fine. You can send it through to me.
Thank you. Councillor Stables?
It was just about the topic on the circular economy, the environmental services. It was just would be good in that to have some feedback about the food waste trial that's going on in Wetherby.
Thank you. Sorry, I was just jotting that down. That should be appropriate to go in there, shouldn't it, Rachel? Brilliant. Okay. Anybody else got anything that they'd like to see that's not on there, or anything they'd like planning into those themes? Okay. That's great then. Thanks for that work on that, Rachel. It seems like we're all happy with it, so please plough ahead. I did just want to, before we close, mention something that actually should have been on the agenda, but when you said, Rachel, the workshop, I mean, we had a really excellent last workshop with the 2 Leeds University students who've been working on the Leeds by Example website, and I just wanted to publicly thank them for the amazing work they've done. It really is a world away from what it looked like before, and it'll be great to get that launched, and it feels really good that we had a specific task to achieve throughout the workshops for this year, and we've done that. So I think that was a really good piece of work, and maybe we could look at shaping them next year to kind of do the same thing, to set ourselves some specific asks that we'd like to say, okay, the year's come to an end and this is what we said we'd do, and we've done it, because I think that was a really good piece of work. So thank you to everybody who was involved in that, and particular thanks to Josh and Ben for all their work, and obviously Rachel and Polly's team who've supported them. Really do appreciate that. Okay, so that brings us to date and time for the next meeting, which we don't have. And so I will just bring the meeting to a close by thanking you all. Thank you, everybody who's been on the committee this year. Really appreciate all your input, everything that you've come and asked questions about and given us to go away and do. Really do appreciate that. So thank you for your time, and thank you to all the officers who've supported us really well this year. Couldn't have done it without you. Who knows which of us will be on it next year, but whoever is, then look forward to another big chunky year of work from whoever is sitting in this chair and whoever is sitting in your chairs. But we'll leave it with thanks to everybody so far. Thank you. Enjoy your afternoon.